And his stream crashed as well. I just got text saying that his stream crashed. xQc. Yeah, mic check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Nice. It's great.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
great to be finally kind of like talking in a sense. Yeah, I've watched a lot of your stuff back in the day.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, he just blue screened, so I just wanted to, yeah, just confirm it. But yeah, it was too late when I got there. All good. I'm not gonna
But that's
interfere.
funny. No, all cool, all cool. Yeah, I noticed that as well. I keep getting all the comments that are coming in. But how are you doing, man? You want to have a conversation about anything in the meantime?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. You know what? Not really. I'm more of an observer. I think because sometimes you said it
You
earlier.
also.
When you want to be an observer, you have to be like a non-participant. That's what I am. I'm just listening.
True. You react to a lot of things as well, I think. So that's really the best way to do it. I react in a sense as well, but I kind of deviate more towards the negative side of the observer effect, wherein you actually do cause a bit of impact, which is kind of funny because that adds to the observation itself as well, right? Because it's kind of something that you want. Say, for instance, bend certain situations a certain way so you get more information out, information that hasn't existed before. So yeah, it's kind of how I see my own kind of like place within observation.
Yeah, I try to react in like, I try to have fun with it, but at the same time, try to react in a like responsible manner. If that makes sense. Not to blow things out of proportion or be stupid, but sometimes
Yeah, of
I fall
course.
short. But I mean, everybody does, so I think it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you're a little bit wild in between, which I think is sometimes important when it comes to content generation. Like, I do understand that. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're of course nothing like all the other YouTubers who like basically have caused massive amounts of, dare I say, harm through pranks and whatnot. Basically like creating lots of drama without any reason.
Yeah, I
And
do.
also some reaction YouTubers that just steal content. That's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I just do it for fun, and I try not to like I don't have any goals or agenda. I'm not trying to push anything, so that's why I try to. I find my reacts to be kind of like not harmful. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, dude, same, exactly. Like I really agree with that. It's kind of a nice place to be in because you don't really have to hyperfixate on one thing and then kind of like, you know, push that and then have that be evolved into something that then becomes like a lever in the system, which massively changes things in this way. Because I think that's kind of a problem, and it's not something that everyone should do. Like, for instance, if you are going to do something like that, you may as well just like have something like a rocket company if you wanted to take that as example that I'm very familiar with. So yeah, but if you don't want to create massive amounts of change, then yeah. I mean, of course, say for instance what I'm doing here, and I've been on X for quite a while. Back then it was Twitter when I first came on. It's 2021. I've only actually done Spaces since 2023, I think. Yeah, I started in 2023, moving into 24. And so basically I went from zero to wherever I am now. And basically all these spaces are just about trying to cover AI content and sometimes also bring people on who are qualified in those areas. Say, for instance, I know some people who are quite qualified, and we then discuss certain research papers, whether or not it's realistic, how it makes sense. And then kind of try to bring it down to reality. Because the issue that I see quite often that is happening is many people are having discussions about AI, but they're way too fantastical about it, right? So there's no actual accuracy. Everybody's going to say, hey, this machine's going to come alive, but they don't understand how the machine works in the first place, yet they still say it's going to come alive because that's something that sells, right? It gets clicks. And this is really a problem. So if you looked at it, say, for instance, from a more scientifically accurate perspective, then it not only just becomes more peaceful, but also can sometimes be very entertaining as well, because it is almost philosophical in nature to understand what that functions like, because then it also kind of changes how you think. And that's kind of why I chose to cover AI.
Yeah, I understand it, but do you not think that it's kind of like a normal human response to almost want it to come alive, and which kind of impacts the whether or not you're going to say that it comes alive or not, regardless of like your expertise on the topic or not?
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. We tend to have this problem where it's like it's kind of a reminiscent of the Hegel slave master dialectic, wherein you actually want to seek an understanding of what's within by seeking that in some entity that is without. Right? We'll say, for instance, oppressing that entity, right? Because that's kind of how that works. And so that's kind of what we're doing with the machine. We're taking concepts that we understand with biology, and we then basically force that upon a machine, and then kind of make it real in a sense to help us understand ourselves. Like we look, for instance, to these types of machines with enormous capability as if they were some sort of god, because we've always sought kind of the ultimate creator, because we're kind of slaves to our own volition.
Okay, interesting. So what else do you do on here?
Just that, basically, cover AI. Sometimes just have fun, troll people. That I do quite frequently. This is whenever I talk about Tesla content, which is, of course, you're aware of Tesla and how that works and whatnot. There's a lot of misinformation around it, and that's primarily what I cover, right? So say, for instance, somebody's making up some nonsense, I just put them in their place. Like there's this group out there, and this group continually, that their entire purpose is to discredit Tesla somehow with nonsense they make up that is somewhat, it sounds probable, but really is not, right? And so it's funny to troll those people, because if you can actually get down to the bare issue of things, they always like to say it is an issue with a company, but then they always go back to it's an issue with Elon Musk, right? And so when you start to discuss how exactly they have an issue with that person, you start to find all kinds of weird flaws. And this is something that you can easily troll on. And it has to happen, because if you're going to make up endless amounts of bullshit and you think there's no consequence to that, look again.
I understand. Okay. Yes, sometimes whenever you speak, we're on a topic, and then sometimes I'm trying to you do 3 topics, or like 3 questions or answers, right? And I kind of forget what was the first or second topic, and the third one doesn't really have a rebuttal, so it kind of ends right there,
Yeah. Basically, what you're describing is like kind of a context overload almost. Because whenever there's like a point that's forgotten, then it's just context overload. Yeah, I'm very context heavy. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's just, sometimes it's kind of easier when I talk to somebody like that to have take notes, but kind of makes you look stupid when you take notes.
Yeah. I tend to drift off a little bit because everything is kind of connected. Like basically, if you look at the universe and the way it operates, it's like a gigantic math equation, where you just basically use math as sort of an allegory and know how to understand it as kind of a language, because that's what language I kind of think functions as like as well. So yeah, everything is kind of connected. So you always end up finding something that's adjacent to a current thing that you speak of. Almost like a fractal, if you really thought about it this way. Which again is demonstrated with how I've communicated just now. So it's funny.
Yeah. There was poll being ran, a lot of polls, and it's kind of hard to figure out if people were trolling or not, right? But they were asking if you were Elon Musk or not, right? And I kept thinking, at this point, does it really matter or not? At this point, I feel like it doesn't, because the same people are going to be here regardless. And you're doing enough of a good job that we won't be able to tell, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I don't understand how this works out. It just tends to be something that's coincidental. A lot of things are weird about this world, and things tend to be. It's almost like with time. If you look at any event in time, things tend to echo in a sense. We like to say that history repeats itself. I just say that it echoes, and it makes more sense that way, because every single time there's an echo, there's something different about that. There's something different about hearing this one thing that's already echoed before again, right? It changes, or it's frizzled out a little bit. Think about it that way. And so I would say that I'm just kind of like an echo in the simulation, if that makes sense. I'm not the guy, but I'm close enough in some aspects, almost like an echo. If you were to say, scream into a valley, and your scream returns, that doesn't mean that is, someone else screaming back at you. It is just kind of an echo of that scream. And you can tell that there's a difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. Also, by the time you say it again over the echoes, I mean, the context kind of changed, and people changed, and things kind of moved, so it's going to be a different experience regardless.
Exactly. Yeah, same thing with time, because like, for instance, I think a lot of people often refer to the Roman Empire, where they talk about today's society, as in like saying that there is kind of a fall of society, and that it takes on a parallel of what has happened with the Roman Empire, right? So we say it's Rome all over again. Well, yeah, isn't that an echo? Because technically it is Rome all over again, but it's different this time. It's with memes and Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's not the comparison I would have made, but Roman Empire, memes, and yep, gotcha. Makes sense, yeah. Also,
yeah, that itself has also come from a meme.
Well, oh yeah, that comes from a meme, gotcha. So where's Destiny at? Want me to call him?
I have no clue. Yeah, I see there's no one there.
Oh no, he's coming back. He says, keep talking to him. I'm coming back. He's chinning PC. I think he's going downstairs to the studio.
Yeah, I feel like this conversation is perhaps a little bit more entertaining, because I basically don't focus on anything political whatsoever. But if you ask me something that's like philosophical, or perhaps even when it comes to something that's, I think to an extent diplomatic, I'd be able to give you better answers, because I just don't give a shit about politics. And if you see me, say, put posts that are somewhat political in nature on the timeline, that's just basically me documenting something that had occurred, right? Say, for instance, breaking news, a certain law has passed, breaking news, this has happened. That's nothing to do with me. That's just a thing that exists, right?
Okay, then how about something that not to do with you? That's not political, but it can be. What about the interactions on X? Ever since the takeover on X, I feel, or Twitter at the time, I feel like my engagement with the platform has diminished a little bit in quality, but actually increased in density somehow. What do you think about that?
Interesting. Yeah, I'd say that's correct. There's a bit of a shift here. The tactics that have initially worked, they don't work anymore. But it's still very similar, I think, to Instagram and the way that it functions when you want to talk about the algorithm, right? So things are heavily motivated, I think, by events of high impact, but then also its consistency. Say, for instance, when I make a certain post that is, say, a breaking news post, right? And within that, it's something that a lot of people have interest in, then it basically attracts a lot of density. However, I also post other things that are kind of unrelated to this, perhaps quotes and whatnot, that get less engagement, sure, but they still get reliable amounts of engagement, if that makes sense. So if you're like being consistent and you have like some sort of a niche that you've created for yourself, then keep being in that niche and just try to put that out as consistently as possible. Like say, for instance, I think for most people, they actually post too little. That's one problem.
Yeah.
And they interact too little as well.
Yeah, because then they know that they want to post things that are going to do good on the algorithm, and they want to have success with it. So they only post things that are going to get those clicks and are going to do good, and post less of things that will get less, right? So it tends to be very bottom heavy in that case. Then.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this, for instance, you, in this case, you're a streamer, you have a very loyal fan base. Honestly, for you, if you were to say, put out, say, an average of at least 10 posts a day, you just think of whatever, just have a clip or something that you want people to react to. You just basically put that out there with something that you genuinely feel like is something that you would click on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something that you'd be interested in. It's kind of like a vibe check. Don't post something for the engagement. Post it for the sake of saying, yes, that needs to be out there. I think this is really important. Something like that. Right? Because if you post something for the engagement, it's destined to fail. Every single time. Unless, of course, you do engagement farming, but that engagement is functionally worthless.
It is worthless. Yeah, I speak about that pretty often too. Sometimes, something I say a lot is you can make a big stream for 100K people, right? And nobody cares about it. And you can make a stream with 10,000 viewers or whatever that everybody cares about. And I feel like the level of impact is a lot bigger with the 10K stream than a 100K stream, right? Depending on what you do. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Look at this, for instance, right here. We have an instance right now where there's a huge space. Now, my spaces are basically, hang on, how big? What is the size right now? It's at 9K. Okay, yeah. So basically, my spaces on average are like a 90th of whatever this is right now, sometimes, right? So it's like, it's a very small amount by comparison. But that doesn't discourage me in a sense. So like, for instance, you'll have glory moments where a post gets millions of impressions, right? But really what you should really kind of be focusing on is posting things that are of interest to the audience that you've accumulated, right? This is also why sometimes when people say, oh, you have to do reply guys to get reach, sure, it kind of works technically, but people will follow you for your posts and not for your replies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's in terms of like streamers, like what I do and what Destiny does, right? I think it's what makes the people continue to do good, and something that the big streamers all understand is that yeah, you'll have the big ones and the heavy hitters, but it's the foundation that kind of keeps you going and kind of gives you like a lower fan base. Also, I think Destiny's here. You could probably give him a speaker now again. I think he's right there.
Yeah. By the way, your last post was was on the 2nd of July. You know, look at what day it is now. It's like the 15th. So you've had like 13 days of inactivity on the account. Just be active like every single day. And if you were to post like 5 to 10 things every single day, your reach is going to go up because people have to actually interact with your stuff. And if they don't interact with your stuff, given that there's no stuff to interact with, then they're not necessarily going to interact with the next thing you put out. You know what I mean? It's not like with YouTube. Over here, it's like completely different. It's the opposite of that. Wherein you have to have consistent activity, which is kind of almost like YouTube Shorts in a sense. And then you have big bangers in between, which are like your video essays that you put out every 2 months, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of got cooked here, man. You got me on the ropes now. in a way, I feel like I'm engagement farming if I'm only in doing engagement to make sure that my next post has good engagement or that people actually interact with or whatever, right? I've always had it more like kind of like natural or kind of grassroots interaction. If I feel like posting something, I do it, and I hope that people click or interact with it. And even though it'll do not as good as in the algorithm, it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, everybody wants their content to be interacted with, and of course, you then post a certain way. That is, of course, true. And I think that that's not even a problem, really. It's just what are you targeting with priority? If you target with priority value to your community, then yes, you will get interaction from that community because you yourself understand what they would want to interact with. Right, and that's something that you need to consistently post at a relatively high frequency. Like you can choose whatever high frequency looks like to you. In my case, my high frequency is anywhere between 5 to 10 posts a day, and that's quite a lot. You know, that's quite a lot, especially for an account that's small, that's this small. But for some account like you, for instance, which is a lot bigger, if you were to put out like say, even only 3 posts a day, whatever it be, that's also enough. But you could also dial up those numbers just a little bit to something like 5 or 10, because then that's an optimal thing to do, right? You think about it in terms of hours, like post one thing every hour or every 2 hours, right? And then you kind of measure how much content you can fit within that, and then everything starts to make sense. And have that in your mental space. It's almost like a grid that you have open, and whatever content you think fits through that just falls into it.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll post more often. Thank you for you're doing
Also,
God's
I
work
mean,
for
look,
real Elon. You know.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, I love the platform. I love X. I really hope it succeeds. And besides, you know, another thing that's interesting is, say, for instance, I'm not sure if you care about this, of course, right? But, you know, there's monetization, and if you don't post anything, there's no ads that's going to be shown under your stuff because there's no stuff to kind of like, you know, there's no interaction, right? So post more frequently. It's good stuff, you know? And don't be offensive. Try basically look at what Destiny's doing, but do the opposite of that. Like, be very nice.
Oh, damn. Come on, man. You're going to call it this like that when he's not there? I mean...
I said this to his face. I don't say anything behind anyone's back that I wouldn't say to their face.
Fair enough. What was his reply to that? Because I kind of called him out too. I mean, not to his face. I mean, behind his back, of course. About like the violence stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like regardless of the politics, I feel like it's not because somebody shows up somewhere that he deserves whatever consequence happens to him, right? I don't believe that you attending a Trump rally or any rally for that matter, you don't deserve like the range of bad things that could happen to you in said context. That's my take.
Oh yeah, I highly agree as well. Yeah. Because, I mean, that's just unfair. You really shouldn't be wishing harm on people in general. I mean, perhaps, you know, everybody has a small, because it's just natural, war is natural. So everybody has this natural tendency to want conflict or to engage with something that's conflict-based, right? But there has to be a limitation. You know, are you going to attack a dead person? Because that's what that effectively is. You know, that's just weird. Even when I see people engage with that person's account today, and I see there's like his posts and his replies and they circulate again, it feels odd because you look at that and you say, it's almost like that person is still speaking and you're just playing around with what is essentially a dead body.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
wild.
Yeah, the dead body, just like Destiny's account right now, because he can't speak, is the kind of a dead body almost. But you can revive him if you want by accepting his request to talk. That's currently a pending.
I don't see the request for some reason. How many requests are there actually? Oh. Yeah, I can't see any requests other than... Oof. Yeah, maybe if I get on a different phone. It's good to have multiple devices in case one of them fails.
Oh, yeah.
Because disconnects are frequent with whatever you do, especially when you do spaces. Things just happen because it doesn't look well optimized, but it doesn't matter. There's still ways around it. Okay. So I've connected on the other device, and it's worse now. I can see even less. Jesus Christ.
Oh, you might have to restart it then.
Whoops. Let me clear that. Unless I set up on the desktop. Hold on. Wakey, eggs and bacon.
Chat, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I've known at this point for like 45 minutes. It's
not good for my CPU.
It's not the real Elon, just because of how much he cares about this and how much he's struggling to make this work, right? When it's like, it's just,
Yeah.
it is not it.
This is gonna take up so much processing power. Because I'm like running Chrome with a Periscope instance that has this many connections to it. That's wild.
Maybe maybe you can make me co-host if you can still do that, and I can just get him as speaker, and then I'll downgrade myself to listener.
Yeah, sure. You don't need to downgrade yourself. You can stay on the space. You can even comment if you like. There you go.
Oh, okay. Join as co-host. I gotcha.
Yes.
And then.
Yeah, welcome to Mission Control.
Done.
Wolf.
Did I?
I saw a flicker of his existence.
Yeah, he's a speaker now.
Oh, okay. Okay, mic check. How's your computer?
Goodbye.
Destiny? I can't hear him for some reason. Not sure if he's speaking.
Yeah, we can. I'll text him. He says 1 second microphone. He probably has to accept microphone on the browser, right? Like the little pop-up thing.
Ah. Yeah. There's so many requests, it's like, wow.
What do you mean?
That's wild. A request, you know when you see it at the bottom there? You see a little thing that says requested? Yeah.
That is wild.
Yes. You ever done spaces before?
Nope. Nah,
You should do it.
Yeah, but I don't. Maybe if there's something like going on or whatever. Otherwise, I'm just always live. You know, it's just in my interest groups, not a lot of things happen on the fly that like need sort of talking about. You know.
I think it would be a really good way to interact with some of your fans, for instance. I think at some point you may even get subscriptions enabled on your account, and then perhaps you could have like subscribers only content. They could subscribe to that, and then you could like have those people request and do a subscribers only space. Those are quite cool as well.
Interesting. Yeah, you do that sometimes. Subscriber only. I try to do like no paywalling ever, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, then you can also do without that. It just depends on like who you want to let up. Yeah, because I think space is a really good way to interact with your audience. Like, say for instance, me, I can't just like reply guide. It's a huge waste of time and cognitive energy for me personally. But to do it via spaces, just like let people up occasionally, is very nice. And it's and there's also a lot of control with it, right? Yeah. You just have to be careful with who you let up. There are a lot of trolls out there, and account size itself does not determine whether or not they're a troll. It just has to have. It just has to be people that you know. If you do spaces, or don't do that at all.
So my philosophy on all that is that there's no like extra value in a subscriber in terms of what they're going to say and how they're going to interact compared to someone who is not a subscriber. The only difference is if you're on stream and you have subscribers, right? If you have like a subscriber only chat, is that you can moderate it easier, and there's a kind of a risk for them not to get banned because their account is subscribed for like a lot of months and they don't want to lose that. Does that make sense? So you kind of filter some sort of quality like that. But on Twitter, subscriber only, you're only diluting, and it's not really worth it to do that.
True. That was just a suggestion.
Yeah, you're good.
That's interesting to hear that reasoning. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I
was always wondering.
That's in your back end, by the way. It's he has to accept the invitation.
Yes.
Okay, does this work? Hello, testing.
Yes,
Holy
it works.
Jesus. I love you. Thank you, X. Okay, my bad.
What just happened to you? What happened there?
I updated two.
I
vital
can't
pieces
believe
of
I have to
software
stall this
morning,
long,
my
man.
operating system and my OBS, and something is causing Windows to blue screen. I don't know why. So now I moved downstairs to my studio, but my studio is not set up to do audio like this. So I had to reconfigure all of my audio devices, and here we are. But I believe everything should be working. This computer won't blue screen. Okay.
Guys, I know it's not about Elon.
Welcome back.
It's just all the other people that are like
Welcome
political.
back.
They
All
want to
right.
hear what Disney has to say.
Where were
So
we?
I have to keep it professional and chill, just so that he can bridge
Yeah, I
back
kind of
in.
just want to get again. I kind of want to keep away from the politics as much as possible. I don't want to do anything with that. Specifically, what I want to talk about again, because I'm harkening back to that, is the nature of the way that you speak.